That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun. Happy November. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors, AG1. Listen, the pep in my step you hear today is I got my AG1 this morning. Listen, if you've been thinking about trying AG1 or you're looking for a Christmas gift and know your sister-in-law or mom would love to try it, now is your time because right now AG1 is already running a special Black Friday offer for all of November. AG1 is a daily health drink packed with nutrients to help alleviate bloating, support sustained energy, and whole body health. I truly love starting my day with it. It just makes me feel really clear-headed, and I love knowing I'm getting all the nutrients I need to start my day off right. So this holiday season, try AG1 for yourself or even gift it to someone special. That's the perfect time to focus on supporting your body with an easy and surprisingly delicious daily health drink. And that's why I've been partnered with AG1 for so long. Every week of November, AG1 will be running a special Black Friday offer for a free gift with your first subscription, in addition to the welcome kit with the vitamin D3 plus K2. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/soundsfun to see what gift you can get this week. That's drinkag1.com/soundsfun to start your holiday season off on a healthier note while supplies last. Today on the show, y'all, I get to talk with my new friend, Bethany Joy Lenz. You may remember Joy from One Tree Hill. She was Haley James Scott on the show. But today she is being so generous with her story of faith and freedom and identity as she talks about the journey of finding herself in a cult, the manipulation she experienced while we were watching her on TV. She was in a cult, and the empowerment she has found when she broke free from it all. It's incredible. She shares even more of this story in her brand new memoir, Dinner for Vampires, which, y'all, it is right here beside me. I could not put it down. We got to sit down in person together at the Hepzibah House in New York City, where I get to record and talk all about the book and about her faith life. I think you will really love this. For your knowledge, we are the only faith-based show that she made time for when this book launched. So she got to have a place to talk about her faith. I thought that was really an honor to me, an honor to y'all that she wanted to talk to us. So I cannot wait for you to hear more of this conversation with Bethany Joy Lenz.
That sounds fun.
Okay, Joy, welcome to That Sounds Fun.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Man,
We've been
what an
working on
honor.
this for so long to
I
make
know.
this happen. I'm so glad.
I know. I'm so grateful. We share all the people. First of all,
Yes.
Jonathan Merritt is your agent.
I love Jonathan.
He's
Merritt.
amazing, right?
He has just corrupted. It's like he came into my life really fast. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, it was a quick introduction when this book came up, and my boyfriend said, "You know what? He has spent a lot of time in publishing, and he was like, there's only one agent that I really trust with this story. Let me make a phone call." I met Jonathan. We hit it off instantly. I knew based on his own history and what I've been through that this was the right fit. And not only has he been an amazing agent, but he's a good friend. And the way he shows up and gives advice in ways that are, he'll talk the work stuff, but he's like, what's the underbelly? What's really going on? Let's really talk about the real heart behind what's happening or how you're feeling. And he's like a therapist and an agent.
That's right. He is. He's a therapist and a friend. He's therapist is looped into whatever work he's doing relationally.
I admire him so much.
What you didn't ever have to tell this story. So as I was reading the book, I kept thinking, I'm so thankful to read this. This is so deeply personal, even if you change names and details for the protection of yourself, I hope, more than anybody else.
Well, and there were other people too that I just
yeah.
I didn't write it to be vindictive. I didn't write it for any reason other
it
than
doesn't read
just
that
to
way at all.
share something that I think can help people.
So yeah, why did it become a yes to do it? What was the timing about?
I think when I said on my podcast Drama Queen, somebody had written in, like a fan had written in a question, would you ever consider writing a book? And I made this offhand comment, well, yeah, I was in a cult for 10 years. I sure would have a lot to say, but I don't know if I would ever get around to actually writing that. And I had talked about being in that environment on the podcast before over the last 2 years, not frequently, but on occasion. And so I didn't think it was new information for anyone. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it so flippantly.
Sure.
And but I guess it was I joke in the book, a slow news day or something, like
You said a slow news day.
everybody just picked it up. And yeah, so the opportunity came up, and just because somebody offers you an opportunity doesn't mean you have to say yes. And considering that my daughter's 13, and we're just thinking about where I was in my life, if this was good timing or not.
Yeah.
But I am a writer. I knew I could handle it. I also
Are a writer.
felt,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
thank you. I felt like I started to get a vision for how it could help people. Like I had been away from it for long enough. It had been 10 years since I'd been out. Well, I guess actually 12.
Yeah.
And I had enough of a handle on it to be able to say, I think objectively, there may be some moments where it's painful, but I think I could write this without too much emotional weight pulling on me.
Wow.
And I think it could really help. And I like writing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that happens is I make a book deal, I sit down, and I can't write it, and then I just have to call them and say,
give them the money back.
Don't send me a check.
They'll
Just-
send
I
the
can't-
check.
You know what I mean?
Keep it till you see the manuscript.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people listening want to write a book. All of our lives involve other people.
Yeah.
How did you decide how to write your story in a way that, because you do actually, more than I probably would have, you do honor a lot of people in the book that you didn't have to.
Thanks.
And I'm curious how, talk to the listener who's like, yeah, I have an abuse story, or I have a cult story, or I have a wounding story, even a friendship wounding story that has changed me. I want to write it in a book, but I don't know how to do that when other people are involved. That's so hard.
It is hard. It is hard. Part of writing, okay, well, there's two different ways for me to answer this. On a practical level, I got a lot of advice about the structure of memoirs and how people do this. What's okay, what's not okay. I don't want to write things that are untrue, but I don't want to write things that are so clearly true that it's easily identifiable for people.
Yes.
So there were these fine lines where I was constantly calling Jonathan or Sean Manning, my editor, and saying like, okay, can I make a composite character out of two different
Yeah,
people?
wow.
Can I, so that the story arc remains the same? There's nothing untrue in terms of the arcs. Like what
It's still a true story.
It's still a true
That's
story. All
exactly
these things
right.
happened.
Yep.
Some of them happened in a little bit of a different order.
Yep.
Some of them happened to different people than were ascribed to the characters.
Yep.
Some are composite characters, but that's, as long as it doesn't interfere with the integrity of the story, I think
right.
you can do that. So that's on a practical level. On a spiritual level, an emotional level, for me, I had to go into this and constantly encounter my own anger or entitlement or feelings around suffering, and make sure that there wasn't anything I was writing that I included in the book that was coming from any vindictive place, from a need in me to sort of like, dig back.
Wow.
And so really what I did was I just did a major, like a brain dump on the computer.
Yep.
And then went back in and started pulling out all of the things that were not constructive.
Yes, I'd say I'm finishing a first draft this week, we hope. And I wrote about a breakup, and I was like, first draft, I'm going to write the exact
Yes,
truth.
that's
I'm going
right.
to use his name.
Yes.
I'm going to put the restaurant names. I'm going to do everything. And then
Yes.
next week, I will
Be classy.
work. This is it, Joy. This is the language. I will be classy next week. I am not classy currently. I am.
Not
Yeah. You're like, it was a Chili's, but I will change it. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that's a beautiful thing to teach, because it's just so hard when, especially in Dinner for Vampires, there is a deep betrayal over and over, technically. And yet this book isn't about them, it's about you.
Yeah.
And so I think teaching that is really challenging, and writing that way is really challenging.
It's a great point. And my editor mentioned that to me, and Jonathan too. There were a few times when I was wrestling through, like, there were things that absolutely happened that were so clear to me the language around even things like lawsuits or things like that I wanted to be able to clarify, like, this is what happened.
My chance, yeah.
And the legal department was like, we need all this documentation and things, that we were moving this book forward so fast that I didn't know that until 2 weeks before it had to be. Actually, we were in London. It was overdue. So like by then it was like 5 days before it was due for print. And I just didn't have time. Like, all the documentation I have, but it's all in files on other computers. I got to call accountants. I got to call like all these things.
Like the envelope you handed your dad.
Yeah, that he handed me.
Yeah,
yes.
with all the stuff. Yeah,
yeah. So it's like having all that and having to be reminded, it's not about them.
Yeah.
It's not about him. It's about you.
Yes.
And really just coming back to that, like, okay, that's right. That's not what the story is. And I have to be okay with it. But it wasn't a perfect process.
No, I mean, the beautiful thing about memoirs is they are a story set in time. And you will continue to grow and write as a person. And the next one will be set in a different season, a different time. And they're yearbooks. They're yearbooks that are doing the best they can. Okay, Dinner for Vampires. Will you give us kind of, why is that the title? Give us a little overview for, I feel like I got to jump right in because I finished it and I loved it. And so, but tell us, what is Dinner for Vampires and what is the overarching story of the book?
There's a couple of things. So the first thing is, all right, well, I'll start from the story. The story is, I was 20 years old, moved to LA, got involved in a small home group Bible study, like probably so many of your listeners have been involved in. Wednesday night Bible study, Saturday night, whatever, in somebody's home, 12 to 15 to 20 people, depending on the night or the season. And it slowly morphed as a pastor without a church from another state came to visit. He was a mutual friend of some people in the group. And we just didn't know his history, and we were all pretty young and didn't have the wherewithal, the wisdom to be able to recognize the signs of narcissism. And this man, who I believe is a malignant narcissist, if not a sociopath, I'm not a doctor, so I can't credibly diagnose that. But
I can't either, but I can make some guesses based on what I read.
Suspicion. Yeah, exactly. And he probably saw a bunch of young Hollywood professionals, got dollar signs in his eyes, and moved toward us in a predatory way, and really gained a lot of control. There was a lot of using very familiar Christian terminology, environmental, the things that comfort zones, like things that we're used to as Christians or people who grow up in the church. In fact, the one girl who got out had been raised Catholic. So she didn't. It was all a little loopy for her anyway. The charismatic, non-denominational.
Right.
So cut to 10 years later, and I'm living in the Pacific Northwest with the rest of the group. We'd all moved up there, and it wasn't a compound.
While you're going back and forth to Wilmington.
That's right. So I got in One Tree Hill, and I was back and forth between 9 months out of the year living in Wilmington. Every long weekend that I had, I would go home to the Pacific Northwest, and then I would be there for the summers, and really started to isolate myself from anyone else outside of the group.
Yeah.
I didn't trust anyone else. And there was so much mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological abuse happening, not just to me, but to everyone in the group. But I got hit the hardest because I had the biggest bank account. And so the need to control me was probably the biggest priority on the agenda. So narcissists are historically called vampires. They suck the life out of you. Psychic vampires, I think, is the term.
Yeah.
And so I and many other people involved in this group this is a bad sentence. So I had become dinner for vampires.
it's an unbelievable story, except it's believable and it happens to people.
Yeah.
But the process you walk through, like you talked about, I mean, you grew up in this. Salty, the singing songbook, Joy. I was little Salty singing Take My Life and Let It Be in 3rd grade.
You were?
Blue face and all, sister.
My gosh.
So you grew up in that. And I think there are so many people, like you said, who go to a Wednesday night Bible study that friends are throwing.
Yeah.
What warning signs should they be looking for today? If they're at a parachurch thing that is not connected to a Sunday morning church, is there something that you're like, looking back, I should have, this was a tiny red flag in my head? Or was there none?
There really weren't. I just wasn't old enough. I didn't have enough life experience to know anything about boundaries or red flags or any of that. For anyone listening now, I would say there's several red flags. One of them is any sort of sense of superiority where they talk about other churches or other groups or denominations or anything in a derogatory way. Even if it's a joke, I have no tolerance for it.
Yep.
I think some of the others would be watching how people in the leadership behave. If there's it's hard. It's, you were talking to me before we started this about hearing God's voice.
Yes.
And I can't say that there's just a checklist. I mean, there's plenty of checklists you can look at online for narcissism, and they're all true. But the check that you would get in your spirit is something that you just have to partner with God, the God of your understanding at that point, wherever you are in your life, and just feel it out, like ask for wisdom.
Yes.
And it's a check I just get in my spirit. I'm not always right, but the preachers and sneakers syndrome, I can't, I have a really hard time walking into a church and I see a pastor who's 60 years old and he dresses like he's 25. I'm like, what, why are you trying so hard?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be judgmental. Like maybe you like skinny jeans and Yeezys, but I just don't believe that's necessary to your job. So I don't know. There's lots of little things like that, but I've also been wrong. I've met people that I thought at first I was put off by, and then the more I got to know them, I was like, oh, this is actually a really humble, lovely person. Yeah. It's hard to tell. But I do think people should be on guard, because the biggest thing is that there are more people than you think who are trying to manipulate you. I know. I'm sorry to tell you.
Wow.
But it's true. It's really true.
So we both live in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I am doing my training to volunteer at the Tennessee Prison for Women as part of God Behind Bars. It's awesome. If you ever want to go with me,
I would love to.
Girl, I'm telling you, it has changed my life to go on Thursday nights to the church service. Like 150 out of the 500 or so go to church on Thursday nights.
Wow.
But in the training, there's like a 2-hour Zoom you have to sit through. The whole first hour is a couple of things. What you do if this happens, what you do if this happens. The second hour of the training is, what do you do when you're manipulated by a prisoner? And the thing they keep saying is, it happens to everybody. Yeah. It happens to everybody. It's not even that the prisoners are, it's not a negative thing about the prisoners. It is. Yeah. Manipulation happens all the time.
Yes.
And there is no shame. Yeah. Instead, here are the steps to what you do next.
Yeah. What are those steps? Do you have any?
The first, as soon as, they were giving you these tips of like, if someone asks you for this or asks you to do this. So the first thing is you follow the rules. Like, just if you follow the rules, their attempts to manipulate you are really limited.
Yeah.
But the first thing you do is tell somebody. You tell the authorities as soon as something has happened. I gave my water bottle away yesterday. I'm really sorry.
Yes.
I can't find one of the keys on my key ring, and I let someone hold my keys while I was picking up my bag.
There's a photo of my daughter on the keychain. She wanted to see it. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And so you immediately tell the authorities. And it has been so right.
Yeah, that's so hard.
It's so hard because it's what happened in the book is you kept believing the best about everyone in the family, as y'all called it.
Yes. Yeah. You just keep doubling down on believing the best. It's got to be me. If I just double down, if I just keep going.
And the leaders kept telling you in the book.
Yeah.
The leaders kept telling you, anyone who disagrees with us, that's a Jezebel spirit. Anyone who disagrees with us is of the enemy. And I just thought you and I would have sat next to each other every Wednesday night.
Annie.
Like I would have thought, oh yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't know how to determine that, and I'm 20.
And it wasn't that language. They, they were smart enough not to say, if you disagree with us, blah, blah, blah,
Right,
because
right.
that's obviously polarizing language.
Right.
It's more that this is how the world does things, and we are spiritually minded. And so if you want to be moving with the Spirit, then these are the things that you need to adhere to and believe, and don't let doubt in, and don't ask illegal questions, and don't say things to each other that are going to tear each other down. You just only reinforce the positive, which means you can't tell someone about their blind spots unless you're in a basement meeting
In
in
a
there.
circle. Listen, the girl who was gambling away your money, and then and you just had to go, I forgive you and I love you. And there was no accountability. There was no, I just thought, all that blew my, there were a couple of times where I just set the book down and be like, what? I mean, like, that's just.
The amount of self-betrayal that I had to continually deny my instincts and just shut it down. Just shut it down. Don't feel that.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to feel anger. You're not allowed to feel that frustration. You're a sinner too, Joy. And the irony of looking at the other side of this now, where I say, I am flawed. I am someone who doesn't do things perfectly. I can't judge another person, but I'm doing it. I'm saying that from a healthy place where I'm not, it's not betraying myself to say that in giving somebody a free pass.
Yeah.
I'm actually like, oh no, I have a reverence around the justice that will be happening to them. And, hopefully I don't get what I deserve either, in my own.
I mean, that is one of the
flaw.
questions I wrote down is how did you learn to trust yourself again? We're going to talk about God too, but how did you learn to trust your own ability to be friends with people, to be in spiritual community with people? I mean, to date someone who I adore as well, your boyfriend and I have been friends forever. So, I mean, how did you learn to trust Joy again after you have had to deny your own gut for so long, Joy?
Isn't that wild? Like, God, to start that at 30?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even trust my gut when I was a kid. The only place I ever trusted my instinct was on set or on a stage.
Really?
So I knew I had instincts that were good, and I used them throughout my life, but only in a work environment, because I would go with my instinct and get praised for it constantly.
Yes.
And I was always booking jobs, and I was like, okay, so this is I'm good at my instincts in this environment, but in my personal life, I don't know. I made a lot of mistakes, and I became okay with making mistakes, and really not just okay with it, but I really embraced the mess.
Right.
Like,
wow.
What is grace worth if I'm not willing to really show up in my full, authentic mess?
Wow.
And let God guide me, heal me, grow me in that place. It doesn't work. Clearly, it doesn't work for me to show up with all my makeup on and in my nice Sunday clothes and doing everything on the checklist.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So, okay, what's the next best thing?
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever I want.
Right.
But if you speak to me, if you tell me, like, go this way, go that way,
Right.
then I will listen. And that was the sort of deal that I made with God after I got out of the group. It's like, I don't know how to trust myself. I know you care about me. I know you're there. So I'm just going to go with my instinct in every moment. And but if I hear you, like, clearly you're capable of speaking to me without me having to go search for you. So I'm tired of searching. You come find me.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
You come tell me.
dude. That is the thing, right? Is that the Lord looks for us more than we look for him.
Yeah.
And I
wish I'd known that a long time ago.
Same. And we were both salty as kids. So you and I have the same length of how long we've been in a relationship with God.
Yes.
And so I'm actively trying to learn, what does it look like when I do nothing? And what is it? What is God actually teaching me when I'm not like chasing
Yes.
God or anyone else?
Yes.
And when I am going like, my right spot is to let love come to me.
Yeah.
And I have never done that. And it is like practicing it in multiple areas of my life is allowing God to come toward me.
Yeah.
And I feel like both you and I, though it played out differently, both you and I spent a lot of, it seems like from Dinner for Vampires, of time going, what can I do to step toward God in order to be in a relationship with him? I want to be in a relationship with him.
Totally.
So I want to step toward him.
Yeah. What's the timer on the amount of prayer time I have to, like, how many people do I have to have conversations about God with? And how many, this arbitrary checklist that is never ending. It's a ladder that it's a circular ladder. I don't know. A hamster wheel.
It's a hamster wheel, but also we're going to call it a circular ladder because I like that better. It is a circular ladder feels so much harder than a hamster wheel. So I am with you because it's on the outside.
It does.
It's a circular ladder. If we think it is ours to keep relationship with God fully, when he is constantly saying, no, I came to rescue you. Yeah. I came to rescue you.
It's so hard because we're wired for ambition. We're wired to accomplish things. Yes. There's something inherently human and beautiful about ambition in a healthy way. To be able to have the power to name things, to see what's going on in relationships and speak life into someone and encourage them to raise your children to be really succeed and excel at work and create things and be a genius and invent things. I mean, we are creators, and that takes forward movement and ambition. And man, to be to know that the Lord, I just show up and he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday we heard the same sermon at Church of the City from John Tyson. And one of the things he said I could just get my journal and we could just read his sermon yesterday. It was so profound.
So good. Yeah. My boyfriend said that too. He was like, I need to transcribe that and send it off to people.
Literally.
Yeah.
But one of the things he talked about was partnership, not passivity.
Yeah.
And and in the midst of living in this season of letting God walk toward me, I still felt him saying, your job is just show up.
Yeah.
It's not passive to not do the work. It's passive to not show up.
Yeah.
So show up, respond to me is what I felt God being like, respond to me.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do the work. And I feel like I have felt like I had to do the work. To make relationships work with God and others.
We're wired to do work.
Yeah. Is that like a female achieving thing? Is that like because you and I are built like this?
It might be. It might be. I think just and I write about this in the book that high demand is a turn on. Like someone having a demand of you, an expectation of you is. There's a lot of people that really lights up, especially intelligent creatives. Like give me a chance to show up and prove what I can do, what I'm capable of. So to be in an environment where the high demand is like just surrender.
Dude,
that's the highest.
The high demand is surrender.
But you have to surrender in a healthy way and not in a way like, who are you surrendering to? Yeah. Because isn't that the thing? We're all surrendering to somebody, to something, somewhere. So to what can you surrender that will produce the most fruit, the most love, the most compassion in your life? Because it's going to be something.
Yes.
Not to quote Bob Dylan, because you know what I'm going to say. But, you're going to serve somebody. All right, I said it. Go ahead.
You did. Thank you for saying it. I was going to let you. All right, friends, I'm interrupting this conversation to tell you about one of our incredible partners, Great American Family. Okay, it is no secret that we love watching Christmas movies around here, and 'tis the season to start watching them all. So I am thrilled to tell you that we are partnered with Great American Family this holiday season, and we have so many fun things coming up on the podcast soon. You know, we got a deep dive about some of these movies with my friends Jen and Jamie, and you may even get to hear from some of the actors in these movies as well. Y'all, Great American Media is the place to find quality faith and family entertainment, and both the television network, Great American Family, and the streaming service, PureFlix. Great American is bringing you the most original faith and family Christmas content available, offering more meaningful and quality stories than they ever have. And you know what else they're bringing you? A cameo from your girl AFD. I got to make an appearance in the new Christmas movie, A Little Women's Christmas, which was filmed right in Franklin, Tennessee. It comes out November 23rd. Please mark your calendars. We are all going to watch it together. It was so much fun. I cannot wait for y'all to see this movie. For all the Great American Family goodness, go to pureflix.com to start your free trial. That's PureFlix, PureFlix.com to start your free trial today. Remember that link, pretty much every other link you could ever hope for, all the stuff we've got coming with Great American Family. It'll always be in the show notes, or we'll send it straight to you every Friday in the AFD Week in Review, which we hope is the best email of your week. Sign up to get that in the show notes below as well. You do not want to miss this Friday's. Okay, now back to our conversation with Joy.
That sounds fun.
How did you relearn God's voice after being in an abusive spiritual situation for a decade, where repeatedly in the book, your spouse, your pastor, and some of your friends said, this is what God is saying?
Yeah.
I mean, the Beauty and the Beast story, Joy, is just,
I know.
that is the, I mean, that is the only time I teared up in the book. I mean, the book has a lot of emotion to it, but for me, that you walking away from this, I found tears in my eyes thinking of you, of what that all could have, and God is in control, and the story is not done. But what that
My daughter
could have
wouldn't
been,
exist if I had taken that job.
That's it. That's
so
it.
I'm
That's
okay.
it. Yeah, that's it. So how did you relearn God's voice?
But it was a lot of that. It was just a lot of making mistakes and just saying, like, I don't know I don't know that I know what you sound like. You just have to, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to move with my instincts the way I want to. I'm going to live in the open mess. And you come find me. If you tell me, if I'm in the middle of something and you speak up in my spirit and I feel like you're saying this is not the right move,
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to preemptively be walking around in fear looking for all the traps and all of the things that are going to trip me up and make me a bad Christian and blah. I didn't even know if I called myself a Christian at that
why
point
didn't you
when
walk
I
away?
left the group.
Why didn't you quit the whole thing?
I did. I mean, I did for a while, for sure, for a couple of years. I couldn't walk away from God for one of the reasons that I write about in the book. I had a supernatural experience when I was 19 that I just could not explain. And I consider myself to be a pretty reasonable, rational person, especially after everything that I've been through.
Yeah.
I'm more cynical than I would like to be, and I get uncomfortable in spiritually swirly situations where there's like prophetic stuff happening, and I don't discount it, but I'm much more
You've
on
done
guard.
your time there.
I'm so much more on guard now, but I had this encounter with God that made no sense, and I wasn't in crisis mode. There's no reason for me to have like manifested it, and it wasn't like a kid dream. Like it was real. At the end of the day, like the only thing I can tell you is it was real. And so when I got out of the group, the only thing I knew was that there was something somewhere out there bigger than me.
Wow.
That it showed up and cared about me, like saw me, heard my thoughts, my inner voice, and showed up for me in a way that like I said, I couldn't explain. So I knew I was cared about and I was seen by a larger being.
That's interesting because you're like, before I got into this Bible study cult, I had seen God.
Yeah.
Jesus had shown up for me. There was a thing.
Yeah.
And
so
it was, you could go back to that.
Exactly. And it was particularly connected to the name of Jesus. And so it wasn't like I could say it's the universe morphing itself into some version of something that I could understand. Like if I just look at it objectively and logically, there's really just no other explanation.
Yes.
So I think that having that encounter put me in a place where I wasn't sure about Western Christianity at all. I wasn't sure about, I didn't know who wrote the Bible, where it came from, if it was just a big political tool that had been used for years, which it was used as a political tool in many environments and still continues to be, unfortunately. There are plenty of other religions that I explored, curious about different ways. But ultimately, the more that I explored and researched and watched all the things and the documentaries and read the books and listened to the sermons and visited different temples and different, whatever, the thing that made the most existential sense was the Christ story. And it was singular in the fact that I didn't have to do the work. God came and did the work for me. And now all of the things that I do that are good deeds, quote unquote, in life, or good thoughts, or all those things are meant to and do sometimes, and sometimes I'm still wrestling with performances, but come from a place of gratitude and an outpouring of just gratitude for the grace. And not a like a faux humility of like, oh, I'm so bad, I've got to do all these things because I feel bad that you saved me, which is another weird road of Christianity that a lot of people think of. But yeah, the more I researched, the more I did, I was just like, I really think this is what makes the most sense. And there's still a lot within the Bible, within Christianity, that I don't have a grasp on or understand.
I do.
But the big fundamental questions, I think they're existentially answered most satisfactorily.
Atta girl.
I've been working on my vocabulary this week through Christ. So at that point I was like, well, what am I going to deny my instincts again?
Right.
Just because this has the same label as the other
same
thing?
Answer. Oh my gosh, Joy.
Like,
that's it.
I can't.
That's right. That is, even yesterday Tyson said, this is not a quick thing. If you are the same person in 30 years, then this faith actually hasn't, you haven't been sanctified, was the teaching.
Yeah.
But instead, it is this long changing that is happening in us. Yes. So I'm thankful I don't know everything and still have questions.
Yes,
when I don't have questions anymore, please call me and be like, hey, Downs, you don't know everything.
That's right.
You actually don't know everything.
Yes.
Settle it.
That's what's scary when
with the book coming out this week. I know you are in a lot of places. You aren't getting to talk to a bunch of people who share your faith like you're getting to with us, which is really kind. So I have two questions around that. Number one, how do you want us to pray for you this week?
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Please pray for true humility, not false humility. It's really easy as an actor and a performer and somebody who's very comfortable on stage in front of camera to sort of flip into the performance mode of like, I know it's expected of me, I know how to do this, and just function from a place that where I don't have to actually be emotionally vulnerable. And I don't want that. I didn't write this book for that reason. I wrote the book to be vulnerable because the people in my life who have been vulnerable in the face of hardship have affected me deeply and inspired me. And I just don't want to be closed off. I want to be open, which is just hard to do because now I've got all these boundaries and I'm all like, trying to figure out how to stay soft.
Yes.
In good ways. But yeah, so I would say that would be to just still have access to that emotional vulnerability and then protection for my family.
Yeah.
And I guess I would really love to not overthink things. I would love some just clarity in moment to moment.
Yeah.
So those are three like actionable items.
That's beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you for asking. That's really
of
lovely.
course. I just thought when I was talking to Jonathan yesterday, he said, you are doing so much press that because so many people love you. I mean, you were on a cult TV show. Well, in a cult, right? Is the subtitle of the book. And I thought then we have a responsibility that the other places don't. I have a responsibility that the other hosts don't to make sure you have covering.
Thank you.
And so we get to do that here. And I hope everybody that you talk to is caring about your story.
Yeah.
But not everybody believes everything we believe. And so we know that there's a covering that a great cloud of witnesses brings.
That's beautiful.
And so I wanted to ask that. And then I'm curious, as the book is coming out, what you think about what Hollywood is going to think or feel. What are your friends? You have a lot of friends. You've been in a lot of shows. And have people started reaching out to you? Is it kind of like, I love you, I remember? I mean, what's that?
Yeah, I've gotten some of those messages for sure. I think because I really worked to write the book from a perspective where if you are a Christian and you've experienced any version of these church environments, you will relate to it on one level. Yeah. And if you're not and you have no history with religion whatsoever, there's still so much that you can relate to just from a pure level of narcissistic abuse because it's everywhere.
That's right.
So everyone's been really loving and kind around it. And also because of the spiritual journey that I went through after the book and brought me to a place where finally I'm at a place in my faith where I don't sit in any kind of judgment seat. I try not to. Listen, it's a day-to-day thing. I mean, believe me, you don't want to sit in the car with me sometimes.
I don't want to sit in the car with me sometimes, so I get it.
But I'm hoping that people feel that welcoming heart from me, people who don't believe the same thing that I do, because I don't want to, I'm not trying to be callous to say like, I don't care, because I mean, of course I want everyone to believe something that's going to produce an immense amount of compassion and love and grace and peace in their life. Yeah. But we're all at a place of a God of our understanding based on where we're at. Mm-hmm. It's not my job to go tell somebody what, how they should be living their life, how they should be figuring out their faith. If somebody has questions and wants to bounce ideas off, I love to share that stuff. But I think because I'm coming from that place, it's been really well received because I'm not trying to convert anyone. No. I'm not trying to push anything anywhere. And I just want people to feel invited in, and hopefully that's what this story will do. And so in Hollywood, in terms of that, my friends have been really loving and open and encouraging, and I don't know what people will think. I don't care. I'm not reading comments. I'm not reading reviews. I'm just...
We say a lot around here that editors are for authors. Yes. Reviews are for readers.
Yes.
Reviews are not for authors.
Totally.
We cannot do anything about the books we've written when by the time it's good. Reader, they're important. Yeah. Readers need to see reviews.
That's right. If there's something that comes up that is important enough and it's being talked about enough and there's some issue that's repeated over and over that I need to address, my PR team will come to me and say, there is something we have to talk about. Otherwise, I am making peanut butter and jelly for my daughter, and we're going to watch Gilmore Girls.
The book is done.
Except, I will tell you, there is one major error, and I literally bought. I went on Vistaprint and I ordered stamps so that every time I'm in a bookstore or whatever, I'm just going to go around and I'm stamping the correction thing in this book.
Wait, are you going to tell us, or do we have to?
Yes. No, I'm telling you because I'm officially giving you, as an audience member, permission to go make these corrections in my book in any bookstore that you walk into. It's page 302. Okay. It says, I'm thanking in my acknowledgments Tim and Kathy Keller and the work that they do in the Gospel Coalition, and it's Gospel in Life. And my brain, for whatever reason, tied that in. I wrote it, I typed it fast, I sent it in, and nobody caught it, and I didn't remember. And so I have a stamp now that I go in every book I see. It's 302? Yes.
301.
301. Sorry.
It's the last page. Gospel, say it again. What is it? The Gospel?
Okay, so the last sentence on page 301.
Exactly right.
It says the Gospel Coalition, and that's not what it is. It's supposed to be Gospel in Life. And it's so meaningful to me because Tim Keller was such a hero in my life of faith and reason. And objectivity to be able to look at my faith from a really clear perspective without all the oogie googie emotional spiritual stuff, which is a place for. It's great.
Sure.
But yeah, so I felt really, really bad that made it through.
That'll only be in the first run.
It's only in the first run. It'll fix it. But yes.
We'll buy them up this week. Next run will come that says New York Times bestseller and fixes in the back.
God,
we'll get both of them knocked out next
from
week.
Your lips. But audience, you have my full permission. Go into any bookstore you see my book. Just go to page 301 and just rewrite it.
Just be like, no. She told me to do. Sorry, Joy's a friend of mine. She told me to do this.
Let's start a movement.
Yeah, that's right. So That Sounds Fun audience is going to go. Okay, is there anything I want to ask you about Nashville?
Yeah.
And then what sounds fun to you? Is there anything about this that you want to make sure you get to say that you did not get to say? Or I didn't ask you?
There probably will be later, but I don't think so.
You can just text me, voice memo me, and you can just tell me and we'll just clip it in.
Well, wait, actually I feel like I still didn't fully answer your question about hearing God's voice again. I feel like maybe there was one extra thing that I could say. I don't have it yet. I'm finding it. It's like, I think through making all those mistakes, there was I guess the second half of that would be, there was just a continual process of, it's the sanctification that John Tyson was talking about yesterday, that the slow process of making mistake, trusting my instinct.
Yeah.
Sometimes even trusting my instinct over what I felt like I was hearing in my spirit.
Yeah. Yes.
And then paying attention to the results that came from those specific decisions and choices.
Yes.
And some of them took years to untangle from. Yeah. One moment, I felt God being like, don't do it. And I was like, right. It's fine. How bad could it be?
Right.
Took years. Some of them were just quick moments that I was like, ooh. And some of them were moments when I did what I wanted to do instead and realized it and was able to backpedal and get out of it fast enough. God's grace is there in multiple different ways, but it's a long process. It just doesn't happen overnight. And so I think we really have to become okay with making mistakes and living in the mess and just expecting that we need the gospel. Because what else is it for?
What else? This is a John Tyson fan pod. One of the things I wrote down yesterday is I want my friendships and relationships to be a safe place for sanctification.
Yeah.
Like I want to be in relationships where people let me change.
Yes.
And let me make mistakes. And I want to say to people, hey, if you're in an intimate relationship with me, this is a safe place to be sanctified.
Yeah.
Which means it has to be a safe place for people to make mistakes.
Yes.
And I have to have relationships where I'm allowed to say, I think the Lord said this or invited me to do this and I missed it.
Yeah.
We just have to have those relationships that are safe to be sanctified in.
We have to. And just in your own personal relationship with the Lord and with the Holy Spirit, it's hard to admit that there's a pride that comes from being able to make all my own decisions and do everything right. And I'm good. So to realize that I'm going to be stumbling all the time and tripping and falling all the time and needing to be caught all the time I'm learning to start enjoying it more because that's just the human experience.
This is the rest of it. Yeah.
This is just what we're doing here. I can't try and pretend like we're here for some other reason.
That's exactly right.
So now I'm starting to kind of get into a groove with it.
Yeah.
But the other thing you had said about warning signs, and someone who gets really close really fast, and whether that's a pastor, a friend at church, a church group, like everybody just is up your butt suddenly all the time. Like, how are you checking in? It can feel really great because, like you say, you want these relationships that feel totally safe and you can make mistakes and they're still showing up for you and all that. But I have noticed a consistency in the pattern of people who, not people who are nice and check in with you, but like who really are kind of aggressive about showing up for you before the relationship has been built and established, before the trust has been established. It's a red flag. I'm not saying that's always an unhealthy person or bad, but usually that's codependence of some kind. And it could be more than that. So I'm always a little wary of that too.
My counselor taught me this slider, particularly for dating, but it helps in friendship too.
Yeah.
Is there's 4 sliders: emotional, physical, commitment, time. Now, in just friendship, you remove physical, right? But
yes.
they should all go up at the same time.
Oh,
emotional,
yeah.
physical, commitment time. And I'm great at spending a ton of time and getting very emotional in a relationship.
Yes.
And doing both of those fast
Yeah.
is culty behavior. But it makes you feel really connected, but there's actually no commitment.
Well, I don't know if it's even culty behavior as much as it is that's a codependent and a manipulative behavior.
Yeah, that's
good. But they're not usually at the same time. Like, I could be codependent and a manipulative person is attracted to a codependent. And so that person, the narcissist, gets their highs off of doing the behavior that you're talking about. Like the sliders are going at all different directions at different times. And I'm getting fed from the feeling like I'm getting really close really fast and getting, I can feel like it's codependent because it looks like it's altruistic or like you're just showing up for another person, but as a codependent, you're actually getting fed by it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
feeding
right.
your ego and all this
That's right.
stuff. So yeah, the codependent and the narcissist are often attracted to each other. So if there is that, the sliders are not all going up at the same time. There's an imbalance there that should just be checked.
Worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
And now back to finish up our conversation with Joy.
That sounds fun.
Okay, how'd you end up in Nashville? Let's finish here.
Yeah.
We share Angie Smith.
Oh my God.
She loves you so much. She's texted me about you 5 times
No
just
way.
in life, being like, have you hung out with Joy? And I was like, no, we've met. She's coming on the show. She just loves you. I think she's like, Joy's my new sister.
I love her so much. She is really such a genuine, fun, like really smart. She drops right in. You know, she's so great. And our daughters are really good friends.
So are you living in Franklin? You don't have to give us your address, but did you end up in Franklin?
I'm in Franklin. We moved there after COVID because I had this beautiful ranch house in LA that I'd finally like saved up enough to buy this amazing house, and we had horses, and it was so great. And during COVID, it was a sanctuary.
Yeah.
But I don't like LA. I like to visit LA, and I have friends there, but I'm not my sensibilities don't really work with the people in LA. I just don't understand. I don't understand and I have a bit about this in the book too. The way this constant self-congratulatory communication, and you never know where you stand with anybody because everybody's bullshitting you all the time.
That's exactly right.
I just am so confused.
Well, you talk about being in meetings and people being like, you are the best thing that's ever walked into this room when they have 3 meetings in a row.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, they're trying to hype me up so I have confidence about the audition, but now I just feel like you're bullshitting me. And so now I'm confused because I don't like not knowing where I stand with people. I'm much more of a New Yorker in that way, and East Coast and even Southern people. You know where you stand with Southern people because
That's right.
Because if they don't like you, it's not that they're not sweet, but there's so much saccharin on it that you know.
Yeah. She wants you to know. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Bless your heart.
That's right. Has your daughter done well in Nashville? Does she like it?
She loves it.
Good.
She's so happy. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move. I was like, I'm ready to leave LA. Casting rooms are all closed because of COVID. It's fine. We'll get out there. She has been thriving. Yeah. I mean, I thought I had a safe haven in LA with a couple of horses. Now it's everywhere. I drive around and it's just rolling hills and so pretty. And the people are really lovely. Yeah. Even I remember for the first year, we would leave a coffee shop or the grocery store and I wish I had a quarter for every time she said it. Everybody here is so nice.
Wow.
And it's true. There's really a lot of really kind people.
And there's a real something's going on spiritually and impact-wise in Nashville. It's almost like God's like the tide. Everyone's coming together. Like something's going to be sent out. You know, like it just feels like this pull of a bunch of us who do similar-ish.
So much
jobs.
creative, so much creative energy. It's a great pulse there.
Yeah,
I
people
know.
are starting to make movies there. All that.
Right.
That's kind of
That's right.
circling there. It's really interesting.
It's really interesting. It's a spiritually, it's hard for me. I've had a hard time finding a church. It just there's so much traditional I don't know. I don't know what's my baggage and
Interesting.
what's
Yeah.
just not for me,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm just uncomfortable. I don't know what it is, but that's been hard. It's also the area that we're in is so straight white, like everybody is kind of the same, like income, same
Yep.
vibe,
Yep.
that also feels hard. That I would
Yes.
love to be in an environment where there's a lot more diversity, but I have to
Yeah.
drive to East Nashville to get
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Which I do.
Yeah.
And we travel a lot, so that's fine. But there are things that there are enough people that I know, to your point, there's enough people that I know who are moving in from other places that really care about that, care about the diversity, want to be able to see the creativity coming from all different ideas and perspectives, and in this place of wanting to support growth, spiritual growth in people.
Yes.
That I'm starting to see some things shift and move, and that's really exciting too.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Being half there and half here kind of lights me up in all the way. You know,
Yeah,
like I'm getting
yeah.
a lot of that diversity of thinking here.
Yes.
And then a lot of the piece of people I've known for 15 years there, right?
Yeah.
And diversity in both places. And there's peace here too. So it's both and both. But here is like new. Zig, 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 and home is like, in Nashville, I call both home, but Nashville feels very like, okay, here's where you're rooted. Here's where Angie is. Angie's known you for 20 years.
Yes.
Here's where Angie is.
Yes.
And you can go back and you can go to their house and you can sit on the couch and the girls are going to run around and whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Here's where
Maria's-
Angie is. Yeah.
My daughter spent so many hours on that couch.
Yes,
Just
I
hanging out.
know.
It's
It's
so
the best.
good. I love it.
Okay, the last question we always ask, because the show is called That Sounds Fun, tell me what sounds fun to you. What do you do for fun?
Ooh, I was thinking about this yesterday because I was like, what sounds fun is going back to living in New York in 1999 and 2000 before
Bet.
cell phones, and
I
we could just sit in the street and you just told somebody you were going to meet them. You
just
made
wait.
You made a phone call from the payphone and you just stood on the corner and you waited. And
Right.
you beeped somebody and hoped they called the payphone back on the corner.
Right.
Oh.
It had to have been so different.
It was so different. I still, when I walk around the city, I'm like, man, this place is so not what it used to be.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds fun to me. Someday I would like to have a moment of going back in time. But for me, what I do for fun is, I have these two giant dogs that take up so much of my heart and my time, and we have a lot of fun just playing around, and I paint and.
Oh, wow.
But I love to write and I love to storytell. So that my job
Hope
is
more are
fun.
coming.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
There's
More books
more
and
planned
movies
for
and-
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did go back in time, ma'am, in the Asheville Christmas movie.
That's
That was so good about the Biltmore.
Oh, thank you.
That
It
was
so
such a good movie.
fun.
I think I saw you at the Unsung Hero premiere.
Yeah.
Right before the movie came out.
Yeah, that's right.
And I texted your boyfriend. I was like,
Yeah.
that movie, the Asheville Biltmore Christmas movie, that one
Yes.
is so good where she turns over the what are they called?
Hourglass.
Hourglass, yeah. Where she
Yeah.
turns over the hour. It's a great one.
Thank
She being you.
you.
But
Yes, no,
that's a
I
great
loved
Christmas
that.
movie.
Was it turned out really well.
It's really sweet. That's one of my favorites.
What do you do for fun? What sounds fun to you?
Thank you for
Has anyone
asking.
ever
I
asked
love
you
when
that?
people ask.
Oh, good.
Currently, what sounds fun to me, I'm going to Vermont next week, and it's my 50th state. So I'm going for like 2 days just to tick it off, and because it's
Wow.
a couple of hours from here, so I kind of can't wait to have like 2 days in a new place because I've been budgeting to live in two cities.
Yeah.
I only go to those two cities
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, for
That's
sure.
so all my vacations are staycations.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is totally appropriate at this time in my financial life and with what God has allowed me to do. So Vermont's the only place I've been to this year,
Yeah.
not for work, that isn't New York or Nashville.
Okay.
So Vermont sounds fun. Have you been before? I'm sure.
Never been.
Well,
No.
listen, if you're not busy next Monday, Tuesday, you want to meet me in Vermont.
I'm gonna be in LA on
bet
the
you
end of
are,
this book tour.
'cause you've
but
got book stuff to
Yeah,
do.
I would love to go to Vermont. I don't think I've ever been to New England at all. Well, I've been in Nantucket.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
does that count?
Yes,
It's that
totally.
area. But only twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I think. I'm sure Vermont's great.
I'm sure, especially
It's
this
supposed to
time
be
of
beautiful,
year.
right? Everybody keeps telling me to have maple creamies
Go
or something.
tap
I don't
a
know.
tree and just bring home some
This is what
syrup.
I'll do. This is what I will do.
It's going to be so great.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for writing this book. It is a labor of love that you have done for yourself. I hope it feels that way. I hope you feel like you are going back and hugging your 20-year-old self in some ways, but it is also for us, and that's a real gift. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Annie. Bye, everybody.
Bye, friends. Okay, you guys, I am dying to hear your thoughts after that podcast. I have got to hear your thoughts. After you listen to this episode, after you buy and read Dinner for Vampires, we just have to talk about it. Go get your copy of Dinner for Vampires. Go follow Joy on social media. Tell her thank you so much for being on the show. And don't forget to drop into the comments because I'm dying to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep it running on that One Tree Hill cast member episodes and go listen to episode 501 with Jana Kramer. I love Jana Kramer. That one is also linked below for you. If you got any questions from this episode, drop them in the Q&A box in your Spotify app if that's where you listen like me, or you can send them to us on Instagram at That Sounds Fun Podcast. We'll try to answer them there. Make sure you're following there with a lot of your friends. There's a lot of fun stuff going on over at That Sounds Fun Podcast on Instagram. If you need anything else from me, you know I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Anywhere you may need me, that is how you can find me. And I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home. Do something that sounds fun to you, and I will do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me is getting ready for those Christmas movies. So get your Great American Family going. Get your Pure Flicks going. Y'all, we are going to have a great holiday season. So speaking of, have a great week. We'll see you back here on Thursday when we talk with Dallas and Amanda Jenkins all about their new Christmas movie, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Y'all, we also cry. It's going to be fine. We'll see y'all on Thursday.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Check 1, 2 on the microphone. NEF down in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light. When you're down, get you feeling right. Oh man, that sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh.